Hello everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince.
And Vince, you chose the question today, and what are we going to be talking about?
How many spin-offs are too many from a particular mental property?
Let's spin the wheel of spin-offs, shall we? The answer is 6.
Why 6?
Because that's what the wheel landed on.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't read invisible.
Yeah. That joke would have been really funny with an actual wheel, but
True.
It wouldn't have been worth building the wheel.
That's true. We could have found somebody with a wheel.
That's what you get.
I have a caveman friend who has plenty of wheels.
So today we're going to be talking about spin-offs, and we're going to be talking about whether or not it's a good idea to have a bazillion spin-offs of a property. How long can you keep something going that's not what the original thing really was? So let's go ahead and put 10 minutes on the clock, and we'll talk about this right now.
I'm going to go ahead and toss out the two biggest culprits of this in comic books. Anyway.
I'm really hoping for a number. I'm really how many? I'm just like I'm hoping you start with
12. I'll tell you what, once you've gotten to like a triple digits, you really jumped the shark.
Yeah, either that or you have the most prolific idea ever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the two biggest culprits, I think, are going to be Batman for DC and X-Men for Marvel.
Okay.
There's a million spin-offs for these type of things. And
Happy Days for television.
Yeah. Because Joni doesn't always love Chachi, and I don't give a crap about either of them. So I don't even know if that's from the same show. But
actually, I think it is.
I was thinking it was, but I'm like, I don't know.
Well, anyway.
I've never watched Happy Days. I take that back. I watched one and hated it, so I turned it off.
I think it's kind of on there. And I do like Mork and Mindy, which was the other major spin-off from that. But anyway.
Sorry. Yeah. That's the thing is that I guess how many things can you really foster interest from one idea? Now, when you have something like X-Men, you have a bazillion characters, and you're creating a universe in which everybody exists in, and therefore it makes sense that there can be a handful of mutants over here, and a handful of mutants over here, and a handful over there, and everybody can have their own book, and they can be uniquely separate from one another. But I almost feel like this should be also related to the topic of how expansive should your universe and your continuity be? Because it becomes problematic. I feel like it's convoluted. I feel like in order to read certain X books, I have to read other X books.
Well, and it's true for a lot of storylines.
Yeah, I mean, like
when you go back to things like Age of Apocalypse, which went between everything that had an X in the book.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting lost in a big sea of spin-offs. I'll tell you what, though. Batman, I feel like I can pick and choose.
Yeah, a lot more so than others. Mm-hmm. And here's the difference between... I love that you said it that way, Batman for DC and X-Men for Marvel, because with X-Men, I feel like they spin off team books.
Yeah.
Batman spins off characters, and a lot of those characters don't just feel like more Batman. I'm not saying that like the X-Men spin-offs just feel like more teams that are exactly the same as X-Men. I'm just saying that if it makes more sense with Batman that you're getting like single characters, and all of those characters are very different from who Batman is. So you can have a book about Batgirl and Robin and Huntress and anybody you want to in that universe, really. I guess my point is, if X-Men had spun off like that, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. I think that if okay, sure, Wolverine, because he's so super popular, he gets his monthly book, and sometimes more than one. But then, you get other ones that they tried it with, and it kind of failed, or they did miniseries and never did monthlies. Gambit has had monthlies, but that never really worked out all that well, And a lot of them have had miniseries, and I guess, it's debatable why exactly those never really took off besides Wolverine. But, because I can't think of a single other X-Men character that had a regular monthly that went into the double and then triple digits.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of mutants that would get single books by themselves.
Regular monthly series that run congruently to X-Men, yeah. And so, I guess part of the thing is a market thing. There wasn't interest in it, and so it didn't happen. But I'm just saying that I think that it would be less of a problem because I just don't really see why you need this many teams with the letter X in them.
Well, in my head, when you have a team, you're trying to fulfill certain aspects of the team. You're going to have this guy who performs this function, this guy who performs this function, and then before you know it, you effectively have a clone with some different personalities. And I feel like when I'm reading a lot of the X-Men spin-offs, that what I'm reading is X-Men Part 2.
With these other characters.
Like, what if the X-Men had different people in them? Or this is a different part of the X-Men team, and they're just on mission in Canada, or something like that.
Well, and one of the things, and I mean, like, let's be careful, because I haven't read a lot of them, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
so,
neither have I admit.
There are a lot of people who are specifically really big X Factor fans, or big Alpha Flight fans.
And I'll say that I have read some X Factor, and I did enjoy it, but when I was reading it when I was younger, I was like, well, this is the X-Men. I don't know why they're calling it X Factor.
Yeah, and these days, X Factor is a bunch of characters that are very, very disconnected from any of the X-Men, because I don't know who hardly any of them are, and it's Peter David, and everybody says it's fantastic, but I haven't been reading it, so I don't know. And then you get X-Force, which is also a different thing, and again, like, these teams, they have different ideas behind them. They're doing different things. I guess I'm just saying that as spin-offs go. First of all, I like the idea of spin-offs. I like the idea of taking a character who was a supporting character and then fleshing him out in his own place. In comics, we're talking about his own book. In television, we're talking about in their own TV shows. And what can get really fun is when you have, and this has happened historically in television. What can be really fun is when you have one genre and then you take a character who goes off and gets a show in an entirely different genre. That could be fun too. That happened with Lou Grant back in the day, spun off from Mary Tyler Moore. You had Mary Tyler Moore, which was a sitcom, and then you had Lou Grant, which was like a detective show. And I think that's kind of a fun thing you can play with. But I guess I'm just saying that with X-Men, I would be much more interested in it if it was singular characters, and that's why I don't mind it so much with Batman.
That's the thing, is that I feel like I could read a Nightwing story and not feel like the shadow of the Bat's going to be there.
Sure.
No pun intended for the actual series.
And it's always going to be considered a Bat book just because he's so connected to Batman.
But I could read a Nightwing story and Batman never show up and it not be a problem for me. And I'm not saying that I would expect the X-Men to appear in Alpha Flight. Actually, Alpha Flight is like the one X book that I'm really interested in looking at that's not X-Men. So, I'm not sure why.
Funny because it just got canceled, but
I like Sasquatch. Moving on.
Oh, okay. Right. I never really cared about any of those characters, but that's the thing is one of the things I like about X-Men is that there are so many different characters you can put in X-Men that whoever does their X-Men book can kind of pick and choose what characters they put in that team, and it doesn't have to be the same characters all the time. That's one of the things that's neat about X-Men is that as the years go by, you have this problem, and we've talked about this a lot, where in comics it's difficult to decide how much characters should age and that sort of thing, and what to do with them after you've told a bazillion stories. But what's nice about the X-Men is that it's not just a team of like 6 or 7 characters that are always that's always that team all the time. If it's been a while since we've utilized a certain character, we can just bring that person in on the team and revitalize it again. And usually you have your staples. You usually have Wolverine. You usually have Cyclops. But then there's other ones that aren't always there. Nightcrawler is not always. He's dead right now. But I'm just saying that he's not always there. And
he's not always there. Sometimes he's teleporting.
And Gambit's not always there. You see what I'm saying? So. And Gambit's not always. Sometimes he's gambling.
Now, I don't know what you'll think of this idea. This is true. Sometimes.
Hold on. This is. I'm going to cross those two jokes and be like, I have a royal flush. Bamf. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know what you're going to think of this idea, but sometimes I think that Marvel spreads their X-Men universe too thin, so that they're saying that they have to have particular members on particular teams, and these have to be the people that this book focuses on, regardless of what's going on. And
that's true. Sure, X Factor is always going to have Deadpool on it.
Yeah,
not X Factor.
X-Force.
Yeah. Yes, it's etc. Yeah.
One of the reasons that I don't care about X-Force is that I don't care about Cable.
Yeah, sure. I never really have that much either.
You give me Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I'm going to play the crap out of Cable because he's one of my favorite guys. But I just don't care about the book.
Yeah.
I mean that's one of the reasons why I collect this is because Two-Face is more interesting aesthetically than he is on the page most of the time.
As far as spreading ideas too thin, to get back to your original point, I think that Marvel, especially these days, it kind of has this problem on the whole, don't they? Mm-hmm. Where they're doing this with Avengers too. I feel like Avengers has become the new X-Men.
Yeah. Well, they're with each other right now.
Well, they're against each other right now. Yeah. There's a reason for that. Because Marvel has really become, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but I do think it's kind of true. Marvel has become Avengers and X-Men. There's nothing in between. Mm-hmm. Every character in the Marvel Universe right now, and if you can think of one that's not like this, prove me wrong, because I'd love to hear it. Every single character right now is connected very, very specifically to either the Avengers or to X-Men. And
Nomad. He's not connected.
And I guess you could make the case that Fantastic Four is not really that way.
But the Thing has been a member of the Avengers,
and currently is. As far as I think, one of the Avengers, a secret or a new event or something. I don't remember which. And Spider-Man was part of the Future Foundation for quite a while, up until just recently, and maybe still is. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think maybe he's actually out of the white costume at this point. But anyway, and he's an Avenger, so that connects them more to Avengers than it does to X-Men. I'm just saying that it seems like everybody's got to be one or the other, and Avengers is constantly intruding into single people's books. Like, you can't even read Moon Knight without dealing with Avengers.
That's annoying. Like, for me, Moon Knight should be wholly separate from everything. I mean, for me, Moon Knight. I think Blue Beetle should be wholly separate from everything. Well, I don't know who the new guy is, but Ted Kord Blue Beetle. I wish he was still alive.
Well, we kind of geared this toward comics. I think that we could have talked TV on this some, and I sort of wish we had, because when I think spinoffs, I think more television. I would have liked to have talked a little bit about that. You have some series that I feel like didn't get enough spinoffs. Most of the shows that were popular enough to get spinoffs, it was never a problem that they had too many, because they either had really good ones or they didn't last long enough for anyone to care. That's what's nice about television spin-offs, is that usually if they last, they're really good, and if they don't, they just get canceled.
Or they're small.
Well, but we'll get there. I do want to mention that. But like for instance, Buffy didn't have enough. Buffy had a lot of good ideas for spin-offs. They had Angel, that was it.
I would love to have seen the Giles spin-off.
That was supposed to happen. It even had a title. It was going to be called Ripper. And it was going to be done, as far as I remember, I think it was actually going to be done by the BBC. At least that was the rumor in the early 2000s. And then there was even supposed to be a Faith show, the Faith Vampire Slayer. It was supposed to be a show. And, they had some cool ideas, and I wish that it had gone further and we had continued to expand that universe. Of course, Star Trek is one where they kept spinning it off, and each one felt like it's its own contained thing, but they always were neat enough to give us a pilot that directly spun it off of the previous show. So you had like Dr. McCoy in the first episode of Next Generation, so that directly spun it out of TOS, and you had that with DS9 with Picard in the first episode, and even Voyager leaves when they go into the Badlands, they're leaving Station Deep Space Nine. So it was always kind of cool how they did that. But then like you get a show like Smallville that went for 10 years that should have had a spinoff.
Yeah.
They had a lot of characters in that show that had they given them their own show and
might have made something better than what it was spun off
Exactly.
from.
Yeah, if they had the right team behind it. So I don't know. We've got this new show about to come out. I've been talking about this on Late Night Some, Arrow. Have you heard about this on the CW? And why in the world is that not a spinoff of Smallville? And wouldn't it have been more successful if it had been?
Probably.
So.
Yeah. I think I'm going to try to lay my finishing thought on this.
Oh, sure,
since
absolutely.
We're going over time. I think once you have, if your idea for the spinoff is more just trying to make money off of an original property rather than trying to expand upon something that deserves expanding upon, then you are already sort of defeating the purpose of what a spinoff should be for.
Yeah, and probably going to fail.
Exactly. So I think a spinoff is a noble thing to try. I think you need to have an idea that merits it. I also think
and usually it's got to be a character that deserves it.
Yeah.
Gomer Pyle, spinning off from the Andy Griffith Show. A completely different thing. Mm. Totally worth doing. It was really funny.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I really liked Gomer Pyle. Never cared for Andy Griffith. But
I liked both, but anyway.
But I also think, for my second finishing thought, that once you've gotten to the point that you are limiting the original property based on the sheer number of spin-offs that you have, then what's the point of having so many spin-offs if you have to cross everything over in order to make your original book make sense? So
I think sometimes also, let me just throw this out, maybe for my last thought, is that sometimes I think spin-offs work a little bit better when the other thing is done than it originally spun off of. It doesn't happen that way a lot. Usually they run concurrent, at least for a while. But
yeah, a tree trunk doesn't go all the way to the top. It branches.
That's right. Great. So, well, what do you think of spin-offs? When do you think that something is spun too many spin-offs of? What are some of your favorite spin-offs? And what are some things that you would have liked to have seen spin-offs that we never got? Sorry for running this over. I just felt like we would be remiss if we did not mention television. So anyway, leave comments. Let us know what you think. Also, if you have a question that you'd like us to answer in a later video or a topic that you'd like us to address in a Geeks Not Nerds, be sure to leave that in the comments as well. Thanks as always for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.
See you next time.